Briefly, she considered texting Mark. He could stay on the phone with her while he was at work. He'd done it before. If she really needed him to, she was sure he'd come home. But what was she meant to say? There was a strange noise following her around the apartment, making her feel like she was going to die. That was absurd. If she texted Mark that, he'd come home sure. He'd come home with a cop to take her to a mental hospital. Rachel grabbed her food from the microwave and left it on the counter to cool. She wasn't hungry anymore. She'd just throw it away later after work. Missing lunch once wouldn't kill her, right? She felt like she'd been asking herself a lot of questions like that the past few hours, avoiding the question she didn't want to answer. The question idled in the back of her mind as she went back to her office. It let her sit back down and start to settle at her desk again, then slowly crept up on her in time to the rise of an unsettling familiar sound. What was making that noise? It was nothing. Rachel knew that. The drone that was drifting up from her doorway again wasn't real, which meant nothing was making it. That nothing sure was loud, though, for something that didn't exist. The more Rachel let herself focus on it, the more she started to notice. It was hard to hear anything beyond the droning, but if she really focused, she could have sworn she heard the whisper of feet on carpet as it came closer. The drone was giving her a headache. She focused on it anyway. The drone came closer. She could hear the whisper of feet on carpet. It came closer still. It radiated cold. It was standing right behind her. She could feel its shadow over her. It wasn't real. It couldn't be. It was. Rachel screamed, swinging into open air as she turned to push away whatever that thing behind her was. Much to her tearful frustration, it was gone again, the mind-numbing drone having retreated to the living room. It was in the living room. There was something there, something dangerous. It was toying with her like a hunter that knew its prey was cornered. And now that she'd acknowledged it, it was bound to go in for the kill. Well, Rachel wasn't going to just let it have her. She forced herself up on shaking legs, stumbling to the office door and pushing it closed. She turned the lock for all the good that would do and started to back away. Just as she did, the drone suddenly rose to a crescendo and a heavy weight slammed against the hollow wood door. Rachel startled, stumbling back until she found herself in the corner of her office with nowhere else to go. The thing slammed against the door again. Rachel sank to the floor. The drone was furious. The door couldn't hold forever. Rachel hugged her knees and sobbed. The door shook with its rage. Rachel closed her eyes. She hoped Mark would be okay without her. The office door started to splinter. The front door opened. Rachel. The monster stopped throwing itself at the door and Rachel's head jerked up. That was Mark's voice. Oh God, no. Mark, don't come inside. Rachel yelled. Leave. Lock the door behind you, don't let it get to you. Rachel, what are you talking about? Mark called back, paying her warnings no mind. To Rachel's horror, the drone moved away from the office and back toward the kitchen, where her unsuspecting husband was. She started to choke on her sobs as grief and panic clashed in her throat. It was going to get Mark, too. The monster was going to kill him, and then it was going to come back to the office and finish what it started with her. How long would it take for someone to notice they were dead? Would her coworkers worry after a few days of silence? Would her neighbors notice Mark's car never left? Would her parents call for a welfare check when she stopped answering their texts? Oh, honey. Hey, it's okay. You're okay. Can you open your eyes for me? Please? Slowly disbelieving, Rachel opened her eyes. She lifted her head to find Mark kneeling in front of her. He was completely fine, the office door wide open and the apartment quiet aside from her confused sobs. How did the monster escape out the front door? Did Mark kill it? Can I hold you, sweetheart? Mark asked, settling on the floor in front of her. Rachel nodded and Mark gently coaxed her forward into his lap. There we go, he said gently. It's okay. Ivy got you. It's okay. You're safe? You're safe. Rachel wrapped her arms around him, still shaking as she hid her face in his shoulder. Did you see it? She asked him. Did you see where it went? Mark, I thought it was going to kill me. I almost died. Baby, Mark replied, I don't know if there was a monster. Do you think you might have been hallucinating? What? Rachel felt her thoughts stutter to a halt. Hallucinating? But the psychiatrist lowered the dose of your ziprasidone a couple weeks ago, remember? And she warned us that your brain might react badly to it, Mark reminded her. She said it might even trigger an episode, so we needed to be watching for it. Do you think that could be what happened? That you could have been hallucinating because your brain's not adjusting well to the lower dosage? Suddenly, just like that, the previous several hours of panic felt embarrassingly unnecessary.